Hello. This is the inaugural podcast for the Real Estate Blueprint, and I have been working in the industry for more than a decade in lots of different avenues. My name's Sherry Disney, and have been very excited to talk with you about starting this and to launch and have all of our things and us together in the same place. This is great. If you, Jeremy, would like to introduce yourself now.
Absolutely. My name's Jeremy Reed. I've been in the business for about 15 years, and I've mostly focused on the listing side of things. That's where my passion is. I like it the best. Um, Realistically, the way I looked at it, one of my early mentors had explained it to me. If you go into a grocery store and there's nothing on the shelves, you have nothing to sell. When you have a full store, buyers can come to you and you can transact business. So that was about year 5 or 6. After that, that's where I mostly focused, was on the listing side, bringing in as many listings as I could. That ends up being a good thing until you end up with 25 or 30 listings that aren't selling because you're just getting them on the market. You're not really having any kind of strategy. And that brought me onto an 8-year mentorship, coaching, all kinds of different things. I spent about $100,000 just in learning how the process of listing and selling homes. I've met with some of the best minds when it comes to it. And I just fell in love with it. That's just what I like to focus on. So that's where the real estate blueprint really kind of started, is on the listing side, the listing blueprint. I'd say that's like our flagship thing. And now it's just expanding out into all aspects of the business. But I still firmly believe that any strong business in real estate is going to have a listing first approach. I just think it's what's necessary if you're going to really make a go of this, make good money, and have a good sustainable business. That's the reputation I think everyone wants to work towards.
Right. Yeah. So now, when we were sitting down and we were thinking about this podcast and the ideas for it, I think that it would be great for us to brainstorm and explore here and maybe get some feedback eventually too about different guests we might have on, because I think one of our overarching themes we had talked about before was maybe also like taking the mystery out of real estate for the general public too.
Right.
And then also, and I mean, before we get too far away from the topic as well, I mean, I think when we look at something like listings and acknowledging how important that is for your business development as an agent, but also from the side of the public, what maybe they should be looking for from their listing agent, what they can expect, what kind of things would help them achieve their end goal and sell their house in the way that they would like.
Well, I think that's probably, I hope that's who part of our audience goes. I mean, at first glance, this is going to seem like it's tailored towards realtors. We're going
Hmm.
to be talking about strategies to listings, how to actually get listings, how to market listings, how to price listings. Like, we're going to be pretty focused on a lot of those things to start anyway, and then we'll branch off. But for the general public, I think this is one of the biggest assets you're ever going to buy. And the more educated you are on how this process actually works, the more demystified it is. I think you're just going to have a better experience. You're going to get to have the ability to know what actually needs to be done. And then when you're meeting with realtors or interviewing agents, it's going to be easier for you to choose.
Hmm.
And this isn't to get a bunch of people in my market to start following me. This is across the board. I mean, this podcast is endless, and you're not going to be able to serve everyone that listens to this. But I think, for realtors listening to this, it's going to make a lot of sense. If you haven't done a lot of listings, I think there's a lot that you're going to grasp from it. And if you're just the general public, you're going to be really well equipped next time you go to list your home to know what to look for, not only in an agent but in a marketing plan. And also, I mean, one of the quotes that I heard a long time ago that I really like is that this business is easy, the people make it hard. And I don't think anyone intends to do that. It's just, if you don't know what you're looking for and it's your first time selling, it becomes a bit of a battle. And I think it just having that clear vision of what needs to happen will make it easier for you to cooperate and work with your realtor and get
Hmm.
that better result. Because the sellers that are coming to this market educated are doing better, hands down. I mean, the stats have said that. It's just one of those things, you have to know what you're doing and be willing to come in with the right strategy right out of the get go. And what I'm seeing now in my market and a lot of markets is that there's still the idea that even with everything correcting the way that it is, you always have that negotiating room. So a big portion of the market is pricing high, and it used to work. The market was rising, it would catch up, or even in a normal market, there was that chance that someone was going to come and pay that. But in this market where it's softening, buyers are concerned. It's just not doing it, and that's why the latest stat said about 60% of the listings on the market aren't selling right now.
I think also it would be good if you have, uh, let's say, if it's a sentence or two or few of what your definition of a soft market would be. What are we talking about when we think soft market?
Soft markets, when the easiest definition is if you take all the homes that are on the market and you divide them by the average amount of sales that happen every month. If there's less than 3 months of inventory, it's a seller's market. It's a very strong seller's market. It means that there's not enough inventory to support the amount of buyer demand. Between 3 to 6 months is where you start to get balanced. And right now, we're in what would be considered more of a buyer's market, where there's anywhere between 6 and 9 months of inventory that's on available for buyers. And on top of that, buyer sentiment is a little nervous because there's a lot of, and I think falsely, I don't think it's right, but there's a lot of fear propaganda on YouTube and all kinds of things about how this market could completely tank and you're going to be able to buy things back for half the price in 6 months. And if you're listening to that and you're a buyer, it becomes a little bit hard to really feel like I want to make the move and overpay for a property right now. And so you're in this fierce competition with a timid buyer. That's what makes it so soft.
Right.
Because there's still quite a few buyers. If you take a look, like the buyers didn't go away. It's just the investment buyers did, which
Right.
is a portion of the market. But a lot of buyers are just holding.
Some segments
Yeah,
are just holding.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's starting to move now. People get tired of waiting.
Right. And one of the things that I have heard over the years and speaking with agents over time as well is there is always people moving no matter what. There is a buyer out there.
Yeah.
Because, teachers and medical professionals and members of RCMP and that they still have to move their homes, even if it's a soft market or a falling market or a rising market. And so there's buyers there
Well, I think it was
anytime.
proven in a few ways. Number one, in 2020, when everything went crazy and we were labeled an essential service, I mean
Right.
that just shows that regardless of what's going on in the market, homes need to change hands.
Hmm.
There's always a demand for that to happen. And the second thing is, I don't care how bad the market gets. The true test is if you would you sell your house if it was listed for $10? Of course it would. At $100, at $100,000, at 300,000, and the scale just goes up until it gets to a balancing act where not everybody would buy it. And that's something a lot of people don't want to hear when they say, "Oh, there's no buyers." If you dropped your price by 100,000, there probably would be. If you know what I'm saying. So it's that right there is the solid test, regardless of what any of the media is saying. There's always going to be a buyer on the other end.
Right.
It's just buyer expectation is not matching seller expectation, and that slows things down.
Well, that is perfect because actually, the next thing I was going to go into is that if you had someone who came into the office, very first time ever looking to buy right now, what kind of resources would you point them towards? What is your first bits of advice for someone who's brand new, never purchased, but is considering it today?
Well, if you just look at just policies that are being put into place and the way that things are going, it doesn't seem like there's a big chance that there's going to be a drop anyway in BC where I'm at in real estate prices, because that doesn't seem to be the push. It seems to be that there's more of an attempt to create accessibility to funds, make it easier to finance, make it longer that you can finance, which is inevitably going to continue to build the equity back up in the property. So you're probably not going to see a time, in my opinion. I'm not an analyst, I have no idea, but I
Hmm.
don't think there's a time where you're going to see it get lower. So if you're a first-time home buyer, what I would be saying is right now you've got choice and you've got some power. And it doesn't mean that you're going to buy a property for half the price of what it's listed for, but this is probably a good time to get in, if it's the move that you want to make. Because I don't foresee. And here's the other thing. Again, I'm not an analyst. I don't think that the market's going to take off in the next 5 years either. I think we're probably going to be on somewhat of a horizontal market. So be patient, take your time, watch what's actually coming up, because 3 or 4 years ago you had to buy whatever you could buy and you were competing with everyone. Now you've got choice, and that's choice and patience can go a long way in a market like this.
Choice and patience. Yeah, that I hear that. Yeah, totally. And I am thinking the other thing that I heard in there was that you would maybe send them to a mortgage person. And if they're a very first time home buyer, if you are sending them off to a mortgage person, what kinds of questions are they asking if it's their very first time there? And yeah, I've seen a lot of agents have a very good relationship with one or a few mortgage people.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And it's again competition. Looking at the market, the banks are getting competitive to win buyers over right now. I actually just had a one of my mortgage brokers that I work with reach out, and they just had a flash sale where they were offering 3.99% over a 3 year. These the banks are trying to take on more business, and they want the first time home buyer business. And the truth of the matter is, depending on who you are, if you're putting less than 20% down as a first time home buyer, uh, you're an insured mortgage, which means that the banks really want to work with you because they're taking no real liability. You're a CMHC or Genworth insured mortgage. So I think it's very, very important that you get together with your bank or your mortgage broker, shop around some different options, look at what the long-term plan is, and ask the questions about what incentives there are, because that's changing regularly. One thing I'm constantly talking to my mortgage brokers about is what's actually available. I mean, right now there's a GST deferral for first-time home buyers that just came up that a lot of people don't know about, and that's if you think about the average development, 5% GST that's added on, that's 5% equity that you can get immediately just by buying a new build. So there's these different options that can come up, but if you don't know, you don't know. So I think it's important to ask those questions and look at the write-offs that you have and look at what a 30-year amortization actually can buy you, because that's another option you can do now too. So there's some things that just get yourself educated.
Yeah. And I'm writing down that I think a mortgage person would be great to have on at some point.
Yeah,
And and to have us go and look through what from their perspective, what they're seeing, what trends have meant in the past, and what we might be able to expect from their avenues that they're learning information from right now.
yeah, and I think it'd be kind of neat to dig into some of the questions that a lot of people don't know, like how do mortgage brokers get paid? Like,
Right.
right, like how is there a fee for service? Is it a commission based? Like, there's a lot of things I'd like to start bringing some of that. And again, going back to the idea of demystifying the industry, these are all questions that a lot of people have. I'll give you a perfect example.
Yes,
I
please.
was licensed in real estate, had my license, had my first buyer, still didn't know how I got paid. I had to go ask my managing broker how it actually works that I get paid. It just didn't make sense to me. So I remember that when coming in, and I think those questions are still out there, and I think a lot of people will be interested in knowing that.
Agreed. I
Yeah.
think so too. And I do think that it's a mix. I think it depends. So there are some brokers who do go out there and are commission based, and there are some who are salaried and sit in a branch. And those are two ways that I've seen, but it would be interesting to hear perspective from both, perhaps. A little bit of a different change in direction, but thinking also about who else might be interesting to bring on in speaking with a mortgage person recently is they have a lot of questions around insurance and what happens when we, for example, I have lived on the West Coast for quite some time and now coming inland and experiencing the smoke and all of the different areas that seem to be affected by fire in that. So, insurance, is this something that you have had experiences with already? Do you already have questions coming up from clients? Because this is recently one that's come up that
Oh
that
yeah.
hadn't really thought about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now it's becoming pretty standard that we have clauses in our contract that state that if a fire is within a certain range and we can't close, the buyer has a right to extend out. That's how common it's becoming. So yeah, I mean, an insurance broker would be great in a lot of ways. I am curious about a few, we should get an insurance broker on actually,
Hmm.
because even being in the industry, it'd be just kind of nice to ask a few questions about um, just what they cover. I've heard that their policies, again, I don't know. This is why I'd want to hear it from them, but I've heard that policies from insurance companies can be more beneficial than the ones through the banks. I don't know. It's just information that I would like to ask. So that we
Right.
should put that on as a guest idea.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. And now, before we get into, the last few kind of closing up questions or statements, any other guests on the top of your mind? I think maybe a virtual assistant or maybe something AI focused was something that I thought maybe
Yeah.
were ideas that maybe I've heard you come.
Yeah. It'd be great to get all kinds of people. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest benefits the real estate blueprint could provide is if we can get access to people that just because we have an audience we can talk to and ask these questions. One of the things that I've definitely got a strength for is the ability to take a complex problem and simplify it. So if we could get some people like that on that I could ask to, it'd be nice to take that and then try to simplify it down and just find actionable ways. Because that's one thing with this show. Anything that we do, I want to make sure that everything we do is something that is easy to understand and can be implemented right away. I don't
Right.
like complex ideas. I don't like the idea of bringing in an AI expert to tell us how complex AI is, but give us nothing that we can actually do with it. And I think that's going to be an important part of the guests that we bring on is, okay, how do we make this actionable? How do we make it measurable? And how do we actually make value out of the information? Not just talking about the ideas and how complex they can be.
In like an ethereal way.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
to demystify it. Yeah, I am totally on the same page about that. And I do think that that is going to give the ability for agents and everyone, hopefully, to get over some of those initial hurdles
Yeah.
so that it doesn't take so long to learn some of the things maybe we have over time.
Absolutely.
Which brings me to start tying up our conversation. What is something that you've learned that you wish maybe that you'd implemented long ago, or there was a hurdle that you had to overcome, or something that you, wish that you had learned sooner?
I wish it didn't take me 15 years to realize that the best source of business I had was just calling and contacting my past clients. I built a business in a sales mentality. I had good relationships. I had really good repeat business. Always have had really good repeat business. Didn't have a lot of, not the level you would expect of referral, until I realized that referrals don't happen by chance. People can really like you, but this is a top of mind business. And actually going back and connecting and taking care and popping in and updating them on the market and doing all those things uh, has this gold mine of business because they already know you, like you, trust you. So the fact that you would not tap into that and get into their networks and do more business, I think part of it, to be honest, I've thought about this a little bit. Part of it was definitely a subconscious. It felt weak to ask for help. It was easier to just do a good job and move on and not be, I felt that there was some sort of weakness in asking someone, could you pass my name on to your friends and family? But man, is it ever low hanging fruit. And it goes a long way to just say, I liked working with you. And if you know anyone in your like-minded people, hang out with like-minded people, if you could just pass my name on, I would really appreciate it. That is the one thing I wish I'd started earlier. Thinking about 15 years of doing that before I started doing it, man, the compounding effect would have been massive. So if you're in real estate, get a database. If you sell someone a house, do not lose touch with them. Stay in touch
Right.
with them, keep in regular contact, and don't expect that they're going to remember you a year from now. Like they need to hear from you and they need to know. And there's always stuff happening in the market. So there's a reason to reach out.
And you really do build that relationship. One of the things that I've seen happen for sure too, and the like-minded people working with like-minded people is that, yeah, when someone has had such a great experience and then you're going to meet their friends, it will be also another great experience.
Yeah.
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 And I think one of the things that I would like to leave things off on as a bit of a trend as we set into a format for the show
Yeah.
is that if you want to leave us with a piece of advice for just where the market is at right now, if there's a piece of advice for agents at the current moment, one thing that they could do that would help perk up their week or change their week or help them what's one thing that you would point them towards or encourage them to look at?
Don't don't buy into the narrative. Don't buy into the media. Don't buy into this idea that there's not deals happening. I did that, and I did that early on in this year, and it took me till almost May to realize no, it's not. There's buyers, they want to buy, but my process, what ended up happening to me this year, was that I went through the first 4 months thinking that we had an election coming up, interest rates, there's market uncertainty. It seemed too dangerous to just start dropping the prices. And then by the end of April, when it was still saying it was going to happen, it was going to happen, I went to one of my sellers that was the most on board, and I said, hey, I think if we just drop the price. So we dropped the price by 5%, we got an offer. So then I called all 11 of my other sellers that I was working with. We dropped all the prices and they all sold within a couple of weeks. And the light bulb went on for me. There's buyers there. We're just not matching the expectation. So if you're sitting on the fence and you're thinking there's no buyers, just remember that typically, not every time, but typically a seller is going to become a buyer. And a lot of people are just kind of waiting. And there's a lot of these deals that are happening. And if you can just get on page with the buyer of, hey, or your seller, let's just get off the market. Let's get it sold. Let's drop ahead of everyone. Get that buyer, get you in a buyer position, and let's make it up on the buy side, because that's really where the movement's going to happen. They still want to move. That's the other thing not to remember. They really want to move. They just
Mhm.
need you to feel it's okay. And if you can guide them through that, get the price down, and then go to work for them. And there's nothing better in this market. I'll tell you for sure. Get a seller sold. Go look at 3, 4, 5 properties that they're interested in. And when you write that offer, the line I always love to say is, we've looked at 5 properties. They all work. We've decided to write on yours first. And you'll be surprised at the type of negotiating leverage you have. It's fun. And if the seller can see it's going to be fun, they're a lot more flexible to drop their price.
That's really great advice. That was really good. I was trying to capture it. Is that you want to get ahead and you want to get theirs sold first.
Get sold first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so let's jump into that a little bit deeper. The markets rise and fall based on the motivation of the sellers in that current market. And every market's different, but a lot of places have very similar properties. So if you've got 6 properties that are all sitting at the market and they're not selling, and Joe gets motivated, he drops his price by 30,000, and Joe sells. Now he set a new benchmark. Now what you see is the other 5 properties drop to Joe's price, but they just saturated the market. Now Jane gets more motivated and she drops by another 20 and she sells, and then everyone drops. This is how a declining market happens, but it happens one sale at a time.
Right.
So if you're the first one out, you're going to typically do the best. I've seen this over and over again, so you can just trust me. First one out is going to do the best, and then get them out, get them in a position, and
Chasing.
get them out of the market, get their house sold first, let the rest of the market crumble behind them, then go buy something. And go in strong when you buy something. Make it up. If they have to drop their price down to get sold, make them feel good about the deal that they get next.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. That was a hugely valuable final tip. And absolutely. I think I was thinking of like the chasing of the market, which I've definitely also witnessed happen before. When you're not the first, you're
Yeah.
more the 6th or 7th.
When that crash starts, you don't want to be behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And this is great. And
Thank you.
I
This is
am
awesome.
looking so forward to everything that this will become. And thank you for coming along on this adventure with us. And thank you for joining us for the first episode.
That's pretty good.
Excellent.